Okay, so again, we have y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. This is the standard form of a quadratic equation. A always comes before x squared, b always comes before x, and then c is always our constant term on the end. So when we talk about b in the directions, we are talking about the term in front of x. When we talk about a needs to be 1 for completing the square, as it was in the previous examples. But as you will see moving forward, we have a value that is not 1. So what happens, it's a little bit different. I'm going to factor out the 5 out of the first 2. I repeat, the first 2 terms. I leave a giant space. I have my parentheses and then my minus 7 over here. And so now if I cover this part up and I cover this part up, I am back to the problems that we've been dealing with the x squared plus 2x. I take that 2, I divide it by 2, and I square it. So 2 divided by 2 is going to give me a 1. And then I do the same thing. I'm subtracting it. We're going to do some work in here to clean it up. We have x squared plus 2x plus 1. We have our minus 1, and then we have our minus 7. Again, really all I'm looking at is this part right here to take it back to the last problem that we've been doing. I'm going to add in those parentheses to show you that I am factoring those 3 terms again. And when I factor those 3 terms, we're going to get x squared plus 1. Because again, it's factoring into this number that I have written right here. So we're going to say that we have y equals 5, we have x plus 1 squared, we have a minus 1 still, and we have a minus 7. I now need to distribute the 5. It's going to go right in front of our parentheses that we just squared, and then it's going to come over here, and it's going to be multiplied times that negative 1 right there. So I have 5 times negative 1, which gives me a negative 5 and a minus 7. I have 5 times x plus 1 squared and a minus 12. There is my vertex form of 5x squared plus 10x minus 7. So I've completed the square and done some extra little work there.
Good afternoon, Valley High School. This is a 7-minute reminder, 7 minutes, so the leadership team meeting in the library. Looking forward to seeing you all there right at 3:30. Have a good afternoon.
So I've factored out the 3 again out of those first 2 terms. I've moved the 1 over to the side over there. Again, now we're just looking at this x squared minus 4x to complete the square. Again, I'm taking the negative 4, I'm dividing by 2, and I get a negative 2. And we're going to square it, and we're going to subtract that same value so as to not change the value of the problem. And again, I'm going to factor these 3 terms right here. Everything else just gets copied down. So I'm going to factor it. Again, it's factoring into that guy right there. I have x minus 2 squared. I have a minus 4. My plus 1. I am distributing the 3 to both right here in front and to that little guy right there. So that gives us a minus 12, a little plus 1 there. And we end up with y equals 3 times x minus 2 squared and then minus 11. And last but not least, on C here, we have y equals negative 4x squared plus 24x minus 44. Again, I'm factoring out the negative 4 out of the first 2 terms. Make sure that you change the sign here because the negative times a negative gets back to the positive. Leave your space, minus 41. Again, negative 6 divided by 2 gives me a negative 3. I'm squaring that. So I get y is equal to negative 4 times an x minus 3 squared. I have, this part is my minus 9. And I have minus 41. Yes, I skipped some steps there. We have y equals negative 4 times x minus 3 squared. The negative 4 and the negative 9 make a positive 36. Subtracting 41 from it, we get negative 4 times x minus 3 squared and a minus 5. Again, this has been completing the square, taking a quadratic equation from standard form to vertex form.